Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to do a real special product review today. I'm going to do a retro review on a Bachmann Spectrum 482 USRA heavy mountain type locomotive. And what's really cool about this, it is an Illinois Central Railroad locomotive. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and talk through how I acquired this locomotive. So I'm going to talk for just a few seconds while I'm doing the unboxing here. So originally this locomotive, I did a lot of research on this. I believe it was originally produced in 2003 because there was an article in Model Railroader magazine specifically related to this product. But then I believe there was also a run of these in 2007. I think this is from the original 2003. I couldn't find any documentation to support otherwise. Here is product guide. I'll talk about this stuff here in just a second. Warranty card, get a Bachmann Spectrum catalog, and then the big warning, this heavy mountain is not recommended to operate on less than 22-inch radius curves. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this here. This does have the large coal tender, road number 2981, and we'll peek through and you can see the locomotive right up here. So as I mentioned, this product was originally released, you know, getting on about 17, 18 years ago. And I was actually able to acquire this off of eBay. Wasn't even really looking for it per se, but go on eBay every once in a while. And I could tell just by the photos, the seller on eBay listed this as, you know, brand new from the standpoint that yes, it's almost a 20-year-old model. However, I believe it was in the package the entire time, and after I got it home and unboxed it and took a look at it, there was absolutely no sign of any wear, that it was on display or run or anything like that. So this really is a new locomotive that's 20 years old. So I'll go into the details and show it up close here in just a second. Obviously the tender is separate from the locomotive. We got our wire harness plugins here. I'll show you where those plug in on the locomotive in just a second. So this was actually a DCC ready locomotive. In the tender, there's an 8-pin DCC port, and I already put a Loksound 5 decoder in it. So there was actually this little DC jumper board in it. I did not record putting the decoder in it. I actually wasn't even convinced that I was going to do the product review until I actually got this out and running and decided to do this sort of after the fact. So, so this has a Loksound 5 decoder in it with a speaker. I installed that. That was a pretty easy install. It took all of maybe about 5 or 6 minutes. And then the cool thing, and the reason why I wanted Loksound over the Tsunami, was there was actually a sound project on ESU's website. It's not a specific USRA heavy mountain type, but they do have a sound file for a 484 Mikado locomotive, which is really essentially almost the same thing, same principal design as the heavy steam or heavy mountain type locomotive. So it has that sound file in it. I don't have a sound file specific for the heavy mountain, but I do have a Mikado sound file in it. So this is my first Bachmann Spectrum. You know, again, I wasn't really necessarily looking, and steam is not necessarily the what I model on my layout, but I had an opportunity. There's very few Illinois Central steam locomotives out there, at least ones that have this much detail. So I was able to jump on this, got it at a very reasonable price. But you know, just the detail on this is pretty spectacular. The bell's a little kitty wampus, there we go. So you can just sort of take a look at the piping, handrail stanchions. Here's the steam dome. You can actually see the sanding, or not, I'm sorry, that's not the steam dome. That is the sanding dome, because you can see the sanding wires coming off the dome. You can see the wires on the side. There is the steam dome right there. Have safety valves, the dynamo's up there. I'll just sort of pan back here. And then the Illinois Central, prior to the green diamond, they use the ICRR markings with the locomotive number on the tender, and then you can also see it on the side of the sanding dome as well as the marker boards up front. So just a little bit more close up of the steam dome. You can see the whistle, some safety valves. I'll slide it here just a little bit. Here's the dynamo right here. I'll get that when I get over on the engineer side. again, the detail on this for being a locomotive that's, you know, getting on 20 years old is pretty spectacular. So you can see inside the cab there are some figures. The smoke release, or the heat release hatch on top, does not work like some of the, like the big boy, the Athearn big boy that I have. The flap actually works. These are not non-working release flaps. The camera is pretty contrasty, but you can see the cab details. It's a fully detailed cab interior. There is a engineer, and then there's also firemen in there. When this thing fires up, the firebox lights up in it, which is a nice, cool feature. Again, here's your engineer. Here's the engineer side. You just see all the details on this, the piping, the handrail stanchions, again, more sanding pipes, the main piston, smoke box. So just a really cool detailed locomotive. So here's something that's pretty unique about this locomotive. You can see that it does have an Alco manufacturer plate on it. So like I said, I did quite a bit of research on these Heavy Mountain locomotives. The Illinois Central actually purchased these locomotives from 2 different manufacturers. They purchased a total of 35 of them in 2 separate orders from Alco. The first order was in 1923, the second order was in 1926, and the first order had road numbers from 2400 to 2014, and then the second group was road numbers 2440 to 2459. Here's where I'm a little bit confused. This particular locomotive has the road number of 2981, and again, from what I was able to decipher on the internet, this was not a real road number for a 482 mountain type locomotive. The 2900 series was actually assigned to the 210-2 locomotives, and ironically, the thing about that is Illinois Central ended up rebuilding 76 of their 210-2 locomotives back into the 482 Heavy Mountain locomotive. So pretty interesting. I don't think this is prototypically correct from the standpoint that the number of this locomotive is era specific, but you know, again, it's not a deal breaker from that standpoint. But you know, again, the detail on this is just pretty remarkable. But I also thought it was interesting that Illinois Central did rebuild a bunch of their other steam locomotives into these Heavy Mountain type locomotives, simply from the standpoint, you know, if you pay attention to my channel, Illinois Central is big on rebuilding a lot of their first generation diesels. A lot of the GP9s, GP7s and GP9s became GP10s and GP11s. So Illinois Central really has a history of rebuilding their fleet. So I guess it shouldn't be any surprise that that practice started with rebuilding of steam engines. Here's just a look at the tender. Yeah, the coal load doesn't look quite as realistic as probably what you would want it to, but it's okay. The other thing, and I couldn't find anything, I couldn't find any pictures or anything, but there is no rear light on this tender, and I don't know if that's prototypically correct or not. But you know, for this case, there is no light on the back of the tender. I'm going to keep trying to find information on these locomotives. If it comes down to being prototypically correct amount of light, I might do that at some point. So anyway, like I said, I did end up equipping this with a Loksound 5, and this is actually my creation. I did based upon the information from the sound file that I downloaded from ESU, that these are the sounds and the functions and the CVs that control the sound slots, the volumes and the volume values. So in case I ever you know, kick the bucket and somebody inherits my collection, they're not going to be completely lost. The other thing that I have to continue to do research on, so the whistles and bell on this, you can see the default is a Sioux line whistle and a Sioux line bell. and there's no Illinois Central whistles or bells or anything specific for Illinois Central, so I'm going to keep doing some research to find out if any of the default whistles, bells, and dynamos are available as a sound project, so I can add them later on. So I don't profess to know a whole lot about steam locomotives. This is not my era, this is not my area of expertise, but I'm going to continue to do research on this. So for those of you who are experts on steam engines and steam locomotives, don't hate, because I probably are missing quite a few of the details. So with that being said, let's just go ahead. I'm going to do a quick demonstration on the layout and show you how it works.